Good morning and welcome to Rising. We've got a great show today. We're going to be talking to Gabriel Shipton in a moment. He's the brother of Julian Assange. The UK Home Secretary has ruled that Assange can be extradited. Later in the show, we're also going to talk about the unrest in Ecuador. We're going to talk about the upcoming elections in both France and in Colombia, both of which are kind of on a knife's edge. Emily, what else we got?
We have like an international journey today.
We do. We're going around the world.
Well, we're going to get into the new Hunter Biden audio leak, which you may not have heard about because the legacy media has had little interest in covering it. We're going to talk about Florida Governor Ron DeSantis railing against vaccines for babies and toddlers. And as Ryan mentioned, we are going around the world to give you an update on the French and Colombian elections. But first,
so Gabriel Shipton joins us here. He's a filmmaker, and he is, as I said, the brother of Julian Assange. So, Gabriel, the UK Home Secretary, in breaking news this morning, just ruled that Assange can be extradited to the United States. He has 14 days to appeal. Will he appeal, and what is the kind of prognosis for that appeal and his legal fight going forward?
So yes, Julian will appeal. Yeah, we will be fighting this decision from the UK Home Secretary. We will appeal to the High Court. We'll apply to appeal to the High Court, and we will be bringing up new evidence that has come out since the hearings. So things like the CIA plots to kidnap and assassinate Julian. In the embassy, spying on his lawyers, spying on his psychologists when he was in the Ecuadorian embassy. That will all be part of the application to the appeal at the High Court. Unfortunately, the High Court has already ruled in favour of the US DOJ on this case. The Lord Chief Justice was the judge involved in that ruling. So that to us is a signal that the UK judiciary really want to move this on and extradite Julian.
So the statement from the Home Office is, they say the extradition, quote, would be incompatible. They did not find the extradition, quote, would be incompatible with his human rights, including his right to a fair trial and to freedom of expression, and that whilst in the U.S., he will be treated appropriately, including in relation to his health. What do you make of that statement? Are you as confident as the British Home Office in what they are anticipating?
No, not at all. I mean, if the US DOJ gave assurances to the High Court that said Julian would not be kept under SAMS, but those assurances, the next line after he would not be kept under SAMS was we reserve the right to move him at any time into SAMS or say a Supermax prison. And it's highly likely Julian will be moved to those because we're dealing with classified information. It's a national security case, so it's very likely that he will be moved into those sort of prison conditions that a magistrate found would lead to his suicide, essentially. So those statements from the UK Home Secretary, we don't really, basically what's happened is, if you're a journalist, you publish information on war crimes, on corruption, on torture in the UK, you can now be extradited to another country for doing your job.
And for people who haven't been following this very closely, they may assume that because he's charged under the Espionage Act, that the charges might have something to do with Russia or with 2016 or the DNC, or something else nefarious rather than just simply the act of receiving information from a source and publishing that information. But in fact, this case, it strictly revolves around these 2010, 2011 era leaks. Can you talk a little bit about what he's actually charged with?
So Julian is charged with what journalists do every day, and that's sourcing information and then publishing it. So the alleged source obviously is Chelsea Manning. In 2010, she leaked a trove of documents to WikiLeaks. The Iraq war logs, the Afghan war diaries, Guantanamo Bay detainee files, and cable set of diplomatic cables, 250,000 diplomatic cables. So these charges relate to those leaks and the publishing of those leaks. The others who published these things are the New York Times, the Washington Post, Der Spiegel in Germany, the Guardian in the UK, and none of these corporate media institutions have been charged with espionage. It is only Julian who is charged under these espionage laws, which is the first time publishers ever been charged. Usually the Espionage Act is reserved for leakers such as Daniel Hale, but this is the first time that it's been used against a publisher.
What's your expectation for how this will unfold if Julian is in fact extradited to the United States?
Well, as I said earlier, there were plots, within the CIA confirmed by over 30 intelligence community, former and current intelligence community sources, plots to murder and kidnap Julian, the plots to kidnap him went as high as the White House. Statements have been made by Secretary of States that, previous Secretary of State, like, why can't we just drone this guy? So we're really fearful that if Julian is extradited, that he is not going to be able to be kept safe in the US prison system. So that is our fear as his family.
And one of the strangest things that you hear about Julian Assange here in the United States is that he is a traitor, which to me never made any sense. He's been to the United States, maybe twice in his entire life for a couple of days at each stretch. You have to be from a country in order to be a traitor to the country. Aside from the fact that it's an absurd charge to begin with, Julian is an Australian citizen. There has recently been a change in government, and I want to put this up here that so now the new government has a different posture towards Julian Assange. And the Labor leader Anthony Albanese had said at one press conference, "Enough is enough. I don't have sympathy for many of his actions, but essentially I can't see what is served by keeping him incarcerated." Can you talk a little bit about what is public opinion in Australia toward Assange, and how is that influencing the Australian government, and do they have any leverage with the United States here?
Well, Julian is extremely popular in Australia. The last poll that was done in one of the national newspapers was done at the end of last year, showed 71% of those people polled agreed with the statement that Julian should be brought home to Australia. So really, the Prime Minister is just expressing the wishes of the people in this instance. Australia is one of the US's closest allies, and it's also one of the UK's closest allies. They have a AUKUS agreement together, which is a three-way agreement. So I think there could be an Australian solution to this. There could be a negotiated solution that is put forward by Australia that could end the persecution of Julian, but also end this attack on press freedom. I think the Prime Minister, we're talking about a Labor government in Australia. It is a sort of progressive government. So they're standing on a platform of transparency and accountability, and that sort of goes to the heart of what Julian's work has done, and reporting is about, what journalism is about. Reporting on government and informing the public about what the government is doing in their name, so people can make decisions at the ballot box.
And what would a negotiation, or how do you think a negotiation would fare under the Biden administration? President Biden still has more than half of his term left in office, so it's likely anything would be negotiated under him. So specifically as it relates to the Biden administration's approach towards Julian, how do you think if something were to be put on the table between Australia, the UK, and the United States over the course of the next couple of years, what's your sense of how that might turn out?
Well, for me, it's simple for President Biden. He could just drop this. The Biden DOJ could drop this at any moment. It's that simple for them. This prosecution was brought under the Trump administration, so it could be disposed of as a Trump-era attack against the free press. And this is a sort of once-in-a-lifetime attack on the First Amendment as well. So that has to be recognised in that sense. So I think it'd be fairly simple for President Biden and Attorney General Garland to just drop this and, say, well, look, this was a Trump-era prosecution. We are talking about, we are going to Latin America and saying, we are believers in press freedom as a core tenet of democracy. We are lecturing, or, we are talking to China, and China is saying to us, well, you have a journalist in prison in the UK when the US talks to them about press freedom. So this is a one simple way the Biden administration could say we're serious about press freedom, and by dropping this case.
And what's the timeline? And so I mentioned there's 14 days to appeal. You're going to appeal. How long will that go on? And once that is concluded, what's the next step? In other words, this was a big announcement today, one that was expected, but a big announcement. But what does it mean about the future? How long do you expect until, if you lose on every single level, that he ends up getting extradited?
Well, so the appeal to the High Court, if an appeal is even accepted, will probably be heard later this year, maybe September, October. Then there would be, if that is lost, then there will be an application to the European Court of Human Rights. But I think what we've seen today from this decision is that the UK judiciary, the UK government, want to move this along. They want to get rid of Julian. It's a big problem for them as well. It's a very, they've got a publisher in prison. It's not a really good look for them. So they want to move this along. This decision today shows that. So I think this could probably move quickly, more quickly than we think it could. But the legal avenues are, could be up to a year.
Gabriel, how is Julian's condition, and how do you think this new battle, this new sort of tug of war, will affect it?
Well, Julian's been in a maximum security prison now for over 3 years. So he's there. He's not charged with a crime. He's an innocent man, and these conditions are wearing him down. In October last year, he had a mini stroke. He is not getting better, and we are fearful that he won't survive. He won't survive this fight. He does have a fighting spirit, and he's been battling away for the past 11 years, where previously he was detained in the Ecuadorian embassy, and previously before that under house arrest. So it is a long ordeal for him, and it is wearing him down.
Well, Gabriel, he was also recently married, and I wanted you to pass on our congratulations to him for that. Life goes on as long as it continues to go on, and I know you have to run to another event. But thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it, as always, and we'll tell you what's on our radars next.